Aloha! You're listening to Body Worship, an oasis for the mind, a temple for the body, a sanctuary for the soul. I'm Anna Marie, and welcome to my podcast, where we explore the most cutting-edge alternative modalities, ancient rituals, and sacred practices that shaman, yogis, and healers from all corners of the world have practiced to deeply connect with Source. We'll discuss ways to advocate extreme self-care and align your emotional, mental, and spiritual mind, body, and soul. Thanks for tuning in to Body Worship. Aloha, and welcome to this episode of Body Worship. Tonight's guest is Timothy Robert. He is a conscious man on a spiritual journey, assisting this planet, including humanity, in its shift back to higher frequencies to help establish a new Earth. Part of his contribution is to bridge spirit and science and bring awareness about the impact of cosmic radiation and cosmic events on our accelerating evolution. Space weather and real sky astrology are examples. Timothy is a soul-inspired creative artist. He writes poetry, he paints, and he also writes a blog like opinions under his pseudo True Infinity Me, and he composes and produces music as Timing NL. And I am doing things a little bit off today because I had something happen after our interview and after I had already edited our interview. So there was no way for me to go back in and try to edit this, what I'm going to tell you, back into the interview. So the reason I'm having Timothy on is because we are going through a galactic radiation storm right now. And I have had such severe symptoms because I'm so highly sensitive that after my interview with him, as the day went on, my symptoms actually got worse no matter what I did. And we're going to talk about some of the things that we're doing to combat that in the interview, so I don't want to give that away. But it literally got to a point where I was actually scared. And I felt like I was going to have a stroke because my head was burning up and pounding so hard, and there was a pressure in the top of my head from my eyebrows all the way back to the back of my scalp. So I want to share with you what I did in order to be able to get rid of this. And I did not mention this in the interview. So I took an entire stalk of celery and I juiced it. And I also have been drinking celery juice every day, every morning on an empty stomach. But I did this. I also put 2 tablespoons of Juice Plus in there, which is an organic green juice that has all kinds of green vegetables, but it also has spirulina and chlorella and some other superfoods in it. And then the key was I put 2 tablespoons of Calm, which is magnesium powder. I stirred it up. I drank it. I drank about 30 ounces of water on top of what I've drank all day today, lemon water. And it was going away, but it still was there, and I was still kind of scared. So I ended up taking a hot bath with Epsom salt and lavender, and literally while I was in the bathtub, my heart started pounding really hard, and then all of a sudden, I just felt everything dissipate. And so I just wanted to share this with everybody because it really did help. If you're having any kind of ascension symptoms or any kind of symptoms from any solar storms or galactic, radiation storms, this is a really great thing to do. So without further ado, I will get to our podcast, and I know you're really going to enjoy Timothy. He's a lot of fun, so enjoy. Hello, Tim. How are you this evening? You're in Italy, so we're on a huge time difference here. How are you?
Buonasera, 8 and serata. It's 8 o'clock in the evening. Hi, Anna Marie. I'm good. Getting winter here. I just took a walk with my dog and I had to check the temperature because it felt like it's going to freeze. Now it's still not freezing, but because it's getting colder, you experience it like it's freezing. I have to get used to colder weather now.
That's funny. I was just talking to my best friend saying the same thing because it was seeming like it was freezing and it really wasn't. So you're in the Veneto region of Italy.
Yes.
Okay.
Almost the whole world has heard of Venice.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's the capital town of Veneto. And Veneto is a rich agricultural part of Italy in the north, where more in the west of the northwest is more the industrial, Milano, where they make the cars and have fashion, and so you see a bit those differences in the country. But they have a lot of money here.
Yeah, I've never been, and I'm really looking forward to coming there.
Italia, yeah, it has absolutely beautiful things, and it has a bureaucracy that you say, oh my goodness. I know because I'm of course not an Italian, and then you come to the walls, but that's another story.
You were just telling me about the tea you were drinking. Do you want to share that with our listeners?
My tea is in Italian. I drink infusion. I usually make a mix. Like I like flour, but I like a bite. So I make a mix, and today it's a mix with licorice root, radice di liquirizia, and mellow flowers, fiori di mal. So, and then the mix is nice. I like.
Wonderful. Well, that sounds delicious, and I love the way you say it.
Yeah, parlare italiano in lingua di cuore, then I speak from my heart. Because I speak from my heart and I love the language, then it's very easy for me to also speak English from my heart. But then it becomes an Italian accent. I like to do that all the time,
Oh, well, you're a lot of fun. I'm actually drinking an infusion as well. I'm having marshmallow tea, also vanilla. And the marshmallow bark is actually a tincture that my friend made for me because with all these cosmic radiation that's going on right now, my eyes are so dry in my lips and my skin and everything. So I'm trying to calm all of that down with the marshmallow tincture mixed with my tea.
Yes. It's good to be aware and think and feel into and tune into what you think or believe or have heard or tried that might help you with this radiation, because it's pretty tough at the moment, isn't it?
It really is. And what I wanted to ask you is two parts. First of all, because I know that there's a difference between cosmic radiation and solar radiation, but do the two affect you differently?
Yeah. Just a small correction. It's actually both cosmic. It comes both from space, but we make a difference between what's coming from the sun, and that's what you said, the solar radiation, and the rest we call it galactic.
Galactic, okay.
So it has an abbreviation, GCR, galactic cosmic rays. And of course, it's not only coming from the galaxy, it's most of the rays that come out of space are coming from outside the galaxy. Let's start there. The rays are something and they come from somewhere. It's a big mess out there, in the sense of, you speak about billions of years that we think that the universe exists. We think, but there was a voice inside that said, maybe they still forget 3 zeros. And I thought, why not? How are we so sure that it is only 15 billion years? But whatever, it is billions of years old. It's got trillions of galaxies, and every galaxy has got trillions of stars. And this is only what we can see. It's for us, a visible part of the universe. We don't even know how big the universe really is. So it's just unmeasurable how many stars there are out there. And we can a bit make a calculation of what's the life cycle of a star. And we easily agree that it is a few billion years. And that's when the star gets born, grows, expands, and implodes. And then it's done with the star. Well, if you have the life cycle of a star and you multiply that with the number of stars, then you come to that it's quite a lot of stars that are dying every second. And that's where you get, and that's amazing to realize, wow, if that's the thing, if there's about every second maybe 200 stars that are dying, some of those explode into our direction. And some of those travel only 50 light years, and the others travel a few million light years. We never know. The universe is patient and empty. And those rays start somewhere and they go on until they penetrate our planet and they go through our planet. So it's usually coming from outside the galaxy. That's why I explained it. And it's a difference. The sun has a frequency which is intense for us. It's pretty close and intense. But those rays from space are usually from a supernova or colliding galaxies or imploding stars or whatever. And those have a high frequency. It's usually on a gamma ray level. And gamma rays are radioactive and are 1,000 times as high in frequency as X-rays. And the X-rays are already radioactive, and those are the rays that we receive from the sun. So you get a bit your idea about, what would you prefer, an overdose of solar rays, or would you like a little less, but from a gamma ray level? And that's what we're in at the moment, and that's you feel it. There's a lot of galactic cosmic rays coming in.
Yes, I'm definitely feeling it, and everybody that I know is feeling it as well. And that's the reason that I called you and said, hey, can we do a podcast this week? Because I've got a lot of other people that I already have set up to air their podcasts. But this to me just felt really urgent because I am not able to sleep. My eyes are burning. I am feeling really hot, like hot flashes and heart palpitations, and just really kind of, dizzy in my head. And I'm really eating clean and doing everything I can to combat that, which we can talk about in a little bit here. But I just felt that it was really necessary to have this conversation right now since it's so strong.
I'm happy you reached out to me. We spoke a few weeks ago about that you wanted to have a conversation one day, and you're absolutely right that there is something going on right now, which is a perfect timing. It's a lot of people, new people that are coming to me because it's my contribution. I love to share and bring awareness and insights. And it's not that I'm the only one. There are more people very good in space weather, but most of the ones who are good in space weather come from a scientific angle and only look at what is this going to do with auroras and what is this going to do with power plants and with air traffic and with other electronic devices. And there are rarely people who are aware that it's affecting conscious life, including humanity. And it's just very short that you find medical papers that acknowledge that solar activities and geomagnetic activities, are protective magnetic fields around the Earth, which is absorbing those rays, So it's good if we have a strong field, and it's not so good if we have a weak field. Well, these days, those last weeks, we have an extremely weak inactive field. That's why the galactic cosmic rays are coming in so easily. The fact that there are scientific and medical papers that acknowledge that it is affecting people, that is a big step, because now they acknowledge that those rays are not only penetrating our atmosphere, but they are able to reach the ground, which I always knew for years, but I was a kind of a loner. Like, I know there are space weather alerts that we're going to see auroras, and I know they're going to close an airport because they're not able to take off and land because the instruments and the computers may be disturbed. But they never talk about people, And why? Because that's not any insurance or economic impact, whatever. But that's where we are now, I'm doing it. And that is my contribution, especially in the spiritual community, where, of course, there are friends. They write about that there are things coming, or there are higher beings who are bringing something from far away, or some whatever authority in the hierarchy is activating a gateway, and we get more from this or from that, from a kind of a star system or a galaxy. It's for me all okay, because it's directing in the same way. It's telling us that there are things coming towards us. And I'm looking in it from a spiritual and scientific way. Like I say, I do see that there are things we cannot explain. And if we talk about that, our crown chakra feels like some fingers are doing some surgery. then I think, that's likely that our crown chakra is getting an upgrade. And if that is part of our DNA that is being altered because of radiation, then I can make an easy explanation that this is electromagnetic and blah, blah, blah. But it is still an awareness that it is doing something with our crown chakra. And then I think, that might still be part of a plan. And that might be what other plan can that be than a divine plan, So I'm really open into the spiritual part. And I bridge the spirit and science by explaining what we can observe, what we can measure, and why it is there, and where it's coming from, and where we are heading, and where we are going through. And that's a bit my role. And then I, in a funny way, call myself space weatherman. I'm not talking about auroras and power plants that are going down. I'm talking about people, because people around me can faint, or people around me can get hands and feet that start getting red, and then blue, and then purple and black. And I see the eyes turn away, and I know this person is going to faint if it's not going to lay down right away. So that's the impact we're talking about for some people. And in the eyes of others, people say, well, that person is ill, should be treated. And I say, if it's just one, but there are a couple of thousands all over the globe, and they all have it at the same time. So that's one proof that it's coming from space. And I just say that those people are highly sensitive, and that's how they are wired. And that's not an illness. That's just a given fact that we have those high sensitive people. And that's especially for them. I started, and then more and more it became expansive. And I got many followers now from every angle: medical, biological, conditional, spiritual, whatever. And I like to do it.
Well, it's very obvious that this is your passion, and that's why I reached out to you. Could you explain exactly the effects that it can have on the body? I know I mentioned what I was going through, but I know that there's a lot more effects than what I just mentioned.
Of course, yes, I can. From where I start with those burning hands and feet and eyes turning away and see people faint, that of course took me on the track. Like, I need to know this specific woman is where it started with but of course it became more people. But I had to know, is they always talk about that it is from the sun and that there is a solar flare. But we have a kind of monitors. We have satellites in space parked around the sun, and we have some stationary, the sun on the front and the back side, so we can see what's coming. Other satellites around the Earth measuring, and around the moon. So we have a lot of eyes that are looking and measuring. And sometimes I can see and predict, and sometimes I can verify, and sometimes I can say, there is something, but it's not from the sun. So that's where I went deeper. So what if it's not from the sun, but I do see with my own eyes that somebody is fainting, and I do feel my own. I get to the symptoms I have later. But I thought, there is something, but it's not on the instrument. So it's either on a higher frequency or it is outside the spectrum anyway. And of course, I came on the track there is more than only the sun. That's just so easy. And that's called galactic cosmic rays. Okay, and then I had to find out, why do they sometimes come in and sometimes they don't? And then you see that we have a natural protection from the sun. And that's because the sun is continuously active with solar flares and coronal holes, and it's bringing so much energy into space that it's having a kind of a field. It's pretty big. It's around the whole solar system, so beyond Pluto and whatever. There is, we call it the heliosphere, and the heliosphere is our natural protection against the rays from space, the galactic cosmic rays. But the sun has cycles, and when the sun is getting into a weaker state, call that the solar minimum, then it has less and hardly, and some period even no solar flares, then it is not building and maintaining its heliosphere. So the heliosphere weakens.
And that's where we're at right now?
Yes, that's it.
Yes, with the solar minimum.
Exactly. And because the sun is weakening, it's also not feeding or spitting or bombarding or penetrating our geomagnetic field. So also our field is weakening. So we have a double weakening process, and we get very vulnerable to those galactic cosmic rays. So I had to explain those two, why do we sometimes have the sun and why do we sometimes have the galactic cosmic rays? And what are those symptoms? And I said, in the extreme, people can faint, but that's not me. I don't faint. But what do I know? Biologically, I say it's radioactive. It's penetrating. That's the difference between if you go catch a bit sunshine because you want to have a tan or whatever, you feel the sun is penetrating your skin. And that's all it does. It's not going deeper than skin level. But the galactic cosmic rays on the higher frequency and the solar X-rays, when they are intense because of a solar flare or a coronal hole stream, they penetrate through the body. So the rays are basically ionized atoms. So if you go back to classroom, you say an atom is a proton, a neutron, and a couple of electrons. If it has only one electron, it's hydrogen. If it has two, it's helium. And so we continue. So the whole periodic table is full of neutrons, protons, and electrons. Well, when the frequency goes a certain level, then those atoms leave the electrons, and that's called ionization. Well, this high frequency has a heat. And it's a heat, it can go up to millions of degrees, by the way, but it is a heat level which ionizes, so we receive ionized particles. And those penetrate our bodies, and there is a process in the body that we somehow absorb it for a bit, and that is heating us up. That's the only explanation why the body is heating up. Something comes in and likely stays. So the body is heating up. And when the body is heating up, then the heart starts pumping because, we have to cool down the body. So we get a higher blood pressure and we get a higher, heavier heartbeats. Well, those two.
And that's why the heart palpitations and headaches and everything?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Now we're a bit close to the total view. When you see that there is something penetrating you and it is heating you up and you get a higher blood pressure and you get heavier heartbeats, then it has to go somewhere. So where is it going? People can start sweating. People can start getting hot for whiles, for moments, because it's, of course, waving in more intense and less intense. And there are weaker places in the body. And we start with the eyeballs, get a certain eyeball pressure. We have the third eye. It's a soft place in the head, and you feel a third eye pressure. And we have a very thin, sensitive part. It's called the ears. And the ears get those pressure, and you get beeps like you have just been gone to a heavy metal concert or something. The extreme loud beeps. Some people call it ringing. I call it beeps, but it is continuously and high, and it can be so extreme. So ears, third eye, eyeballs, heartbeats, heat, sweat, because this whole activation in your body is taking that much energy. You get pretty tired. We call people get exhausted. But it is still too high to have a good sleep. So you go to bed and you try to fall asleep, and you do fall asleep usually, but you wake up again. Why? Because your heart is not going into that sleep state. It is still just too active. So this is where we're going through those weeks. It's for me pretty normal to wake up several times, or even not go to sleep before 4 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning, because I just go with the flow. Like, okay, close my eyes, try to sleep. If it's not working, try a few times. It's not working. Okay, turn on the light, go online, go do something, write something, or whatever,
Right.
I get myself busy because I know I'm not able to sleep. So, and those symptoms are, like I say, a bit the general or the common symptoms. And apart from those, you have specific ones. And I still do not know how that works. But I'm pretty close, of course, because I say, everything that comes from space, it's quite unique in a pattern, in intensity, in frequency, in duration. So the type of radiation that's coming in is different. And because it's different, it can have different specific effects. And it started with me years ago that I had on my birthday. That's why I remember. In the afternoon, I got all of a sudden a tooth nerve infection, and it was so heavy that I had to lay down, and after a few hours I went to bed. I forgot my whole birthday, and the next days I healed myself. That's what I always do. But in the next days on Facebook, I became aware that there were about a dozen of people that I knew that had those tooth nerve infection at the same moment. And that was quite remarkable, and that was before I was into this space weather. But after that, I got this experience with my kidney, that I was in a grand cafe, and all of a sudden my pain already, and I knew there is something wrong. I started peeing pure blood. Wow, you think there are people already fainting because of that? or panic and go to the hospital. But I just thought, okay, I think I need to really heal something here in my left side, in my kidney. And of course, I healed that in a few days. But I found out that there were dozens and dozens and dozens of people at the same time going to the hospital with kidney problems. I said, oh my God.
Oh, wow.
And then I found out about the heart, that all of a sudden many people went to the hospital or the doctor because they had some heart rhythm. And I thought, now I'm there. And I found out like this is global and this is always happening when there is a solar flare coming in or an increased coronal hole stream. And it's exactly, I can prove it with the time, with the clock. And I don't need to be a doctor or a specialist. I can prove it because I've got my friends all over the world and we have it all the time at the same time. This is the intensity we talk about,
Last August, I believe it was. Well, actually, it was
September, maybe. Yeah.
It was in September. Yes, September. And I was thinking, wait, it's after the eclipse.
Yeah.
That is when it got really, really intense. And I remember you saying, don't be in a plane right now. And I was like, I'm on my way to the airport right now because the rays were so strong.
Yeah.
And my ears were ringing like crazy. My joints were hurting, like my shoulders and my fingers, and everything was just really hurting. So I wore shungite, the crystal, to try to protect myself. And I had taken a Himalayan sea salt bath and just soaked in it. I knew that this was going on. And then right as my driver was taking me to the airport, I read on Facebook, don't go in an airplane right now because of the x-rays and the radiation. And I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen?
Yeah. That's me. What you see when you read my contributions, it's always coming from love and it's never in panic or fear or whatever. But I do like to bring awareness. If you have to go, it has a reason. So go. But if you don't have to and you can choose, then please take my advice and fly on another day. And it's for two reasons. One is the technical, like I said, the radiation is a beast. It impacts devices. We are in this computer digital era, which we were not 100 years ago. One bit goes the other way and the whole system crashes. That's where we talk about. You only need one bit. And I've had it. I went live with a program with the multi-global projects for Philips Electronics. That was one of my customers. We went live in a weekend, and after a few hours after that we had gone live with an update, orders went wrong. And there was a big panic, and in Monday there was a big crisis, and they were all pointing their fingers to me, like, you went live with something. I said, yeah, but that's not the guarantee that I did it. But I take responsibility. I'm going to find out, and I'm going to see what happened and why. And they said, of course, you are the one because you made this mistake and this mess. I said, don't be too fast. We know what we do, and we know why we test. And we have done our tests, so we also know that we have a good feeling about what we brought live. So we are going to simulate, and we tried to simulate, and we couldn't reproduce. I said, here, this is one proof. If I had made an error, I should be able to reproduce, but I can't. And you know what? Something happened with more computers in the world. And that was again before I was into space weather. But I had that, and now I get those goosebumps because if I knew back then what I know now, then I would just have a big smile and say, I think it's a good idea not to go live this weekend with the update of a system because we are going through a very heavy solar storm. And that's what happened. So I know airplanes, they can fly, but one thing is they have a very intense communication in a very busy area when they are taking off or landing. And that's exactly what they cannot do with those heavy solar galactic activities. It's just like there is too much risk in the communication. And that's why they shut down airports and they say we keep planes on the ground or whatever. So this is one thing. But the other one is, of course, your health. And let's say that's maybe even more important. Stewards, cabin crew, they are measured for their yearly radiation dose. That's for a reason, because high in the air, above a couple of kilometers, few thousand miles, you are much more vulnerable to radiation than we are on the ground. So they measure and they have a target. Well, if you go through a very heavy solar storm, it's pretty possible that you already get an overdose, which is just big enough as your complete dose for a whole year. And that's what I talk about. They know, but they don't keep planes on the ground, and they don't take people through an X-ray or any measure monitoring system when they leave the plane. Like, we like to check your radiation level, but I know that you have just left the plane, at least with a high radiation level, because you already get radiated every time you fly. But when you go through such a heavy solar storm, that's not the best moment to go through the air. That's why. And it's not fear, it's just an awareness. You're not going to die, but it's not good either. So
right, it's not healthy.
No, exactly.
And it's amplified because you're going through that solar storm. Yeah, I saw a video of a guy who had where it measures radiation, and he had it on the plane, and he was like, "Look at this! I'm flying through this right now," and that just always stuck with me because I fly quite a bit. Just because of time here, can we talk about different things that we can do in order to protect ourselves?
Of course, you see, we can certainly talk for hours, and I never look at the time that way.
I know.
But let's see what I explained, where it's coming from space, from the sun, or outside the solar system, and how we can measure the sun, because we have our instruments, but of course we cannot measure and we cannot predict everything that's coming from the galaxy, because it's all around us and we don't know when a star died or a galaxy collided. So we only see it when we see light. Yeah, and we see light when it's coming in. So, and then it's too late. So we cannot predict.
Right.
But we can find where it's coming from usually. When it's a really heavy peak, spark, whatever, then some meters go off, and right away all kind of telescopes start pointing and looking into a certain direction, and they can confirm that there just has been one star exploded, and they can measure the distance and say, well, that happened so many million years ago. Here it is. That just went through our planet. Gamma ray burst. That's what I talk about. Anyway, so we know what the sun does, what space does. We know what it does to us. I gave the explanation. And you have that kidney and your heart and your tooth nerve and your chakra activation or widening. But it can be anything. It can be a pain in any weak spot. If you have an individual weak spot in your shoulder, then it can be the part where your body is reacting. And so it's just this mix of a unique thing that we all get in a certain moment, and that's a unique thing that's really individual, and there are things that are common and are always have. The head symptoms are for me the easiest. Like, I know the heart and the blood pressure, but when I hear my beeps, I say, check, yes, it's coming in. I knew, but my beeps are my first alarm bell, and then it starts with the eyeball pressure and the third eye and whatever. So what can we do? I say ground. Like I already said, it's coming through you. Of course, it's pretty hard to measure what is staying and what is going out. But for sure, we can agree that if we are grounded, then we do know that we are more easily able to let things go through instead of keeping it and holding it. So stay grounded. And grounded.
Being on the ground with no shoes and being able to earth. And then they also have the earthing mats so that when it's winter, you can still ground out to where you don't have to go outside with no shoes on in the snow.
Exactly. Yeah, of course. Like I say, it's not that I say the whole world should go barefoot in nature. Yeah, if you can, it's not go in nature. Stay grounded. Drink lots of water. We know, water is a good way to make things leave the body. The more you hydrated you are, the better you seem to be able to deal with those rays. And I go to the more energetic level. I say, if you are able to and are aware, then make sure you have a healthy chakra system and a healthy aura. So, the chakra system, if there's any chakra blocked, of course, that blocks any energetic flow, and that includes rays that are coming in. So it's just all intuitively that I say, if you have the awareness, take care of your aura and the field, and take care of your chakra system, and drink lots of water and stay grounded. Those things always help. Yeah, and some people say, the most important, you're right, is just drink water. And I say, well, that's for you, and maybe you are right. For somebody else, it's just stay in a healthy condition and be aware of your chakra and aura system. So that means, meditate. I think you are pretty much think about what you eat and what you drink. Yeah, that's a conscious way. So go ahead. And I think maybe you have ideas. Yeah, tell me.
Yes, eating raw, organic, like a lot of vegetables, and so that you get those phytonutrients. And then also spirulina, chlorella, all of the superfoods, the super greens, so that those are pulling things out of you. And then activated charcoal as well. Yeah. And I know shungite is really good for that. And aloe is really good for pulling radiation away and just really helping to detoxify your organs. I was just listening to a show where these scientists were talking about how aloe can protect us against the G5 and all of that, as well as the shungite and then also carbon 60. They were saying, because it helps your telomeres in your brain. It helps to mend them. And then it helps communication between your cells. So I've been researching, like, okay, what do we do?
Right. Yeah, but that's good. You already hear how I speak, like it is a continuous improvement, and I'm deep. I know this is for years, and I've really become kind of an expert, and I'm still doing research, and I'm still going into certain directions. Like, wait, now I want to know more about this or that, and like I know your awareness of food and whatever. So of course I looked up that activated gargle, and I said, yes, you could well be right when you're thinking in that direction. And we have our reasons to take activated gargle for certain. Why, if it has that kind of a structure that it is absorbing toxic things and heavy things? Find something.
Oh, yeah. I was actually listening, and I'll send it to you. In fact, I'll put the link underneath because they're talking about just that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I just got done listening to it last night when I couldn't sleep. So I do want to end with asking you what your favorite practice is for self-care, or one of your favorite practices.
Well, that's a very nice question. And with a kind of a smile, I'm a feet on the ground guy. Let's say highly spiritual, and I got a very high frequency, expansive, but still feet on the ground. So with those things, what's good to me, taking a walk with my dog. Taking a walk. Be aware what I eat. I consciously eat, so it doesn't mean that I take 3 meals because we're supposed to have 3 meals. I eat when I feel to eat, and I know everything we eat has consciousness. And it's what excites me is that I am aware of my food and aware of being out in the sun and watch the sky by the night and watch the sun by the day and be in nature. And if there's anything, be conscious and be a self-healer. This is a bit how I live, and I think that's just the best answer I give. There's not something specific that I say, this is taking a walk.
Yeah, it's more holographic. Yeah. It's just a way of living. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on here and enlightening everybody. And I just really appreciate your time and your energy. And I know you do a lot of other things too. So I would love to have you back about your other subjects that we, can talk about.
I look forward. And for sure, if there's a part 2 in this, we make a part 2 because we haven't gone into that it is altering our DNA. So this is the contribution to our shift and our accelerated evolution. And we can go anywhere, but maybe another time.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
I know we have to stop. Thank you so much, Annemarie, for this conversation.
And that concludes tonight's episode. Be sure to check me out on my website, bodyworship.me, or my Facebook page, Body Worship Coach, where you can schedule a free initial consultation for personal empowerment coaching, holographic quantum long-distance healing sessions, the Happiness Project, which is known to stop panic attacks, anxiety, and depression within 1 session. I also offer past life regressions, workshops, and seminars. Join me next week to anoint your awareness with ancient knowledge and practices by tuning into another episode of Body Worship, an oasis for the mind, a temple for the body, a sanctuary for the soul. If you've enjoyed tonight's episode, be sure to subscribe and like the show at the link below. I'm Anna Marie with my lioness sidekick, Sophie, and you create an amazing day. Namaste.